What's up guys, it's Secure and today we're going to be going over how to get better at Ranked Apex Legends. So with the start of Season 2, Ranked was officially put into Apex Legends and I'm sure a lot of you are getting your feet wet and are wanting to get better at the game. And if we're going to be completely honest, Ranked plays a lot differently than PUBG, so make sure that you keep that in mind when going over these tips, and you're going to have to change your mindset for the most part if you do want to rank up as fast as possible. So make sure you hit that like button and that sub button if you haven't already, and leave a comment if you want me to cover any more topics. And without further ado, let's get into the video. Now I'm going to be covering these tips in the chronological order which they occur for the most part. So first we're going to start off where to land. Now landing of course is going to be really dependent on what you're trying to achieve. If you do want to get a lot of high kill games, for example if you're a YouTuber or a Twitch streamer, then of course you're going to want to land in high traffic areas. But if you're trying to rank up as fast as possible or just trying to win games, then you might want to think about changing up where you usually land. Now I'm not saying that you should land in the corner of the map or on the sides of the map. You can land somewhere in the middle, which is preferred to be honest, but just make sure it's not a high traffic area like Skull Town or Bunker for example. You kind of have to find an even ground. Sometimes you don't want to land too far because the circle might go in a certain direction and you're going to have to run across the entire map. You want to find a place that has a good amount of loot, but you can also rotate to other places pretty easily. And by good amount of loot, I mean that you want to make sure that place has enough for you and your entire team to loot up. And I've said it before and I'm going to say it again, going into the hot zones to get more loot is not worth it. There's nothing there that you can't find anywhere else. It does higher the chances to find golden weapons, but it's not worth it to be honest, and it's not worth risking your RP if you do want to rank up faster, that is. Now we're going to move on to your teammates, and of course this is sharing the wealth. You have to make sure that your teammates are stocked up not only on weapons, but on armor and things of that nature. In a game like Apex, the fights can be so dynamic, and a good enemy team will make sure they try to split you and your team up. This means that all of you have to have health on you just in case that happens. The last thing that you want to happen is for you to get singled out by the enemy team or maybe one of your teammates and they get hurt to the point where they can't heal themselves because they're not carrying meds, while you and your other teammate have med kits and batteries and all that. You want to make sure that everyone has a certain amount of health and healing equipment, that way when things do get tough, at least all of you can hold your own for a little while backup shows up at least. You also want to make sure that you and your team have at least one good gun on each person. For example, if you have a Havoc and a Carbine, for example, and your teammate has a Mozambique and a P2020, then give them one of those guns. Make sure you trade one out to make sure that each of you has a decent gun. I know you feel safe getting two good guns and you feel really like you have to rely on them and all that, but in the long run, having a teammate that's not going to be able to do much in a fight is going to put your team at a disadvantage, no matter what. Also, during the looting phase when you first land, make sure you mark everything that you don't pick up just in case your teammates need it. I don't know how many times I've run into a house that one of my random teammates has looted and there's an armor in there that I didn't have, or a gun or an attachment that I really need. And if I didn't happen to walk in there, I would have never found it. So make sure you do call that out. Now the next tip I'm going to give you is choosing your team comp. Now for me, I love Octane. Octane is my favorite legend by far. But in ranked, I don't use him because he's a very selfish character. No, of course, I'm not going to tell you who to pick, and I'm not saying that characters like Octane are too selfish to play, but you do want to keep in mind what characters your teammates are going to play. In my case, I love Octane to death, and in pubs, I will choose him every single game. But in ranked, I feel like Wattson would be more efficient for my team, so I main Wattson. Now, this is just me choosing not to be selfish, and in the low ranks, I do obviously pick Octane in ranked because people aren't that good. But the higher we climb, I learned that I have to choose somebody that'll benefit the team even more. So if you're not playing with randoms, make sure you pick a team that can actually do something good. Like if you pick Wattson, for example, you might want to pick something to complement her, like a Lifeline or a Gibraltar, or anything that your team's really good at playing. Just make sure that you try to communicate that with your team. If you are playing with randoms, make sure you try to play off of them. If you see them choose selfish characters, then try to pick a support character, and that might higher your chances of winning. Now the next tip I'm going to give you is not to rush everything and try to hold the high ground if it is in the circle. Unlike casual games, people will not push you in ranked unless somebody's already hurt or they have to because of the ring. This means that you got to play smart and you got to learn to not be aggressive, or at least not too aggressive. My team in every single battle royale that we play is extremely aggressive. And we are too in ranked also, like don't get me wrong. But you got to learn that sometimes pushing a team that's not in the circle when the circle's already coming in is not the smartest thing to do. And on casuals, we do it every single time. We don't care. We just want kills. But we do want to rank up on ranked, so we make sure that we just hold the smart position and just try to make the game the most advantageous we can for ourselves. So if you have the high ground, for example, and the circle's coming your way, then just stay there. Like, don't be afraid to stay there because you want to rank up. That's obviously the end goal. So don't be afraid to do that because they're going to do that either way. If you don't do it, they're going to do it to you. There's a reason that in ranked, at the end circle, there's always like 4 to 6 squads left. Like, people play like that. And if you want to win, you're going to have to learn to play smarter. I love getting kills as much as the next guy, but I have to learn that it's not always the best choice, and you just got to be smart of how you play. Now, the next tip I'm going to give you is to avoid high traffic areas unless you have to. Now, there's going to be times where the rank's going to be coming in and you're going to have to run through certain areas, but if you don't have to run through the really, really high traffic choke points, then it's better not to. Let's take bunker for example. If the rank's coming in and you have enough time to go around the mountain, then you should do so. But if you go through bunker, when you have another option, you have the chance of running into either caustic mines or an enemy team, or if you do make it through the bunker, you might run into an enemy team on the other side because opening the bunker door makes a lot of noise. Now, unless you're well stocked up and you're completely confident in your abilities, say maybe 1 or 2 of your teammates have purple armor and the game just started, then maybe you can go through it. It just depends on your skill level. But I'm just saying that running through it will higher your chances of dying. Like, you might run into so many things in there that you might not want to do. And this isn't just for bunker. There are other places, like if you go through, there's some caves that you can go through that people might be in, or they might lay traps down or Watson traps and stuff like that. So I'm not saying you can't do it, of course, but just make sure that you pick the best path for the best possible scenario. Now, I know I've been telling you guys to be more passive, right, than you usually are, and that's fine. But there are times where you do want to play aggressive. And the last thing you want to happen is for you to get third-partied. And the longer the team fight goes on, the higher the chances of getting third-partied becomes. So if you do manage to down 1 or 2 people, make sure you just move up on that and you try to kill them as fast as possible. That way you can loot up and heal up just in case another team comes in. Because to be completely honest, that's probably the goal. Like, you want to third party something. If you see 2 teams fighting, you don't want to go in there and just join the fight. You want to wait till one team's about to get wiped out, and then you come in and just mop them all up. Like, that's the meta. So you do want to end these fights as fast as possible, if you do have the advantage, that is. If you don't have the advantage and you push all dumb, then of course you're going to get bodied. So just make sure it's going to be a judgment call at that point. Just make sure that you do communicate to your team if you're going to push, that way you can all push together. Now, I know this one's going to seem pretty obvious, but this one is not to wander off alone. You don't know how many times people wander off alone and they run into a team by themselves and there's nothing they can do about it. This will instantly make your team weaker if you do die, and then they're going to go try to save you and probably get wiped out as well. So just don't do that. Make sure to stick with your team and make sure you all stay in a formation. That way y'all can cover each other's backs and create crossfires. That way if one of you gets hurt, at least the other guy can cover you while you heal. And the last tip I'm going to give you is kind of lame, but if you do want to rank up fast, this is probably the way to do it. If your team gets killed and say their banners are in the circle and there's no way you can go back to get them, because it happens a lot, to be honest, especially now with the circle buffs, the circle hurts. Like the second or third one, it can take chunks off your health. So if your teammates do die and their banners are unobtainable, you're going to want to play for placements. As the game gets closer to its end, most teams are going to be stocked up and fully armored up with their new weapons and their armor and all that good stuff. So the chances of you taking on an entire team with 2 or 1 of you guys is not very good. Now, I mainly mean this when there's only 1 of you on the team alive. Then this is probably what you want to do, because you're probably not going to kill an entire team by yourself, especially when they have all this loot. So what you're going to want to do is hide, pretty much. You pretty much want to hide for as long as possible until you have to fight. Unless you see an opportunity where you can destroy a team, then that's when you go for it. For example, if you're hiding and you see 2 teams fighting, and one of the teams wipes out the other team, but there's only 1 up on the team that won, then maybe you do want to go for that, because you might kill, the last dude on the team, and you can just loot all of that. But other than that, you kind of just want to hide and get the highest possible placements, that way you can get the most points for the rank. Now, I know this is kind of lame and it's going to be pretty boring at times, but if you do want to rank up, that's honestly the best thing to do. And you never know, if you wait long enough and you hide long enough, you might be able to get a miraculous win. If you find the last team like hurt or something. You never know. And of course, to finish it, make sure you try to play with the team, at least one other person, because you need to communicate. And to be honest, with the experience that I've had playing ranked with randoms, it's 80% of the time not very good, because either they're by themselves running off and getting killed, or maybe they're a squad, like 2 of them were a team, and they just kind of run off and leave you alone because people do that for some reason. Or they just don't make smart choices and they shoot at everything and they take every shot they can, which is not always a good thing. And the players that you want to play with don't even have to be like that good. They can just be willing to play with you and willing to, have this teamwork. So yeah, guys, that's my official guide for how to get better at ranked. I hope it helps you guys out. If you guys want me to cover any topics, make sure to leave that in the comments below. Also, I do stream almost every night, so I will leave my Twitch channel down below just in case you do want to check it out. Anyways, guys, be sure to like and subscribe so you won't miss any of my future videos, and I will see you all in the next one. Take it easy, guys. The one on your jump pad at me, the one on your jump pad, super hurt.
Yeah, I know, I saw.
Right there, super
Down.
hurt. Nice, nice. On top of you.
Last one. Last guy, last guy. Easy. Was my fire on point? Land on him?
That's right.
Look at this fire! I threw that like blind over a wall.
You are
Teamwork,
the
bro.
Apex champions.
It's a slower way of playing, but I don't know, I kind of like it.